Locus awoke to the pale light of dawn spilling through his window, but he lingered beneath rumpled blankets as birds began their morning chorus. Outside, the small farmhouse yard stirred with life, his mother carrying pails of water, his younger sister brushing sleepy locks of hair from her face. Yet Locus remained motionless, entangled in covers and excuses, too tired, he told himself, to face the day. By the time he finally rose, the sun had climbed high and chores lay undone. The cow awaited milking, the garden needed weeding, and the school bell had already tolled. Industrious neighbors passed in their wagons, casting knowing glances at the slouching boy. Each missed task weighed upon Locus's conscience, though he convinced himself there would always be tomorrow. At the one-room schoolhouse, Locus drifted in late, the eyes of his classmates fixed on the empty desk where he should have sat. His teacher, stern-faced Mrs. Allen, paused mid-lesson to call roll. Locus's name was half mumbled from his lips. His homework lay abandoned at home, the source of his latest failing grade. Each red mark on his paper whispered another warning: improve or face consequences. After class, he lingered at the doorway as peers chased each other across the yard, laughing with the ease of those who had prepared. Locus's heart fluttered with shame, yet inertia held him fast. The world seemed to move without him, and he despaired of ever catching up. By afternoon, Locus's father found him sprawled on a sun-warmed rock by the creek, skipping stones rather than tending to the fields. "Son," his voice was patient but firm. "The harvest waits for no one." Locus shrugged, the curl of his lips betraying his displeasure at the rebuke. His father's shoulders slumped. Disappointment weighed upon him more heavily than any scythe. Nearby, neighbors passed with heavy wagons of grain, the fruits of discipline and early rising. Locus felt the sting of inadequacy, but lacked the will to change. As dusk approached, he trudged home empty-handed once again, promise unfulfilled. That evening, whispers of Locus's struggles reached the ears of Mr. Cooper, the village sage. Known for his gentle smile and long cloak of midnight wool, Mr. Cooper welcomed villagers to his ivy-covered cottage. When Locus's mother knocked, tears brimming, the wise man listened quietly. Later he found Locus by candlelight, eyes red with frustration. Without judgment, Mr. Cooper offered him a seat. He did not scold but leaned forward, voice low with warmth. He could help if Locus was willing to learn. Something in the old man's steady gaze stirred hope within the boy's chest, a promise that change was possible. The next morning, Locus climbed the winding path to Mr. Cooper's hilltop cottage. There, overlooking fields dappled with frost, the wrinkle-lined counselor shared an ancient story. He spoke of King Richard, a ruler famed for his generosity. Beneath banners of blue and gold, soldiers marched in perfect lines, and the palace bells tolled for justice and mercy. Yet even the wise king knew the sting of disappointment in those who squandered opportunity. Locus listened, enthralled, as Cooper's voice wove images of glittering halls and ticking clocks that measured life itself. One day, King Richard summoned his court and proclaimed a test of worth for his closest friend, David, a man of good heart but bound by sloth. The treasure chamber's iron doors swung open, revealing piles of gold coins and jeweled goblets that shimmered under torchlight. "Take what you will," the king declared, "but heed that time is finite." David's eyes widened as he stepped inside. Endless gleam lay before him, awaiting his grasp. Locus imagined himself in David's place, chest tight with envy and longing. Yet Mr. Cooper paused, lips curling in a knowing smile. The lesson was only beginning. At first, David worked with feverish energy, filling sacks, stacking urns of diamonds, tossing handfuls of coins over his shoulder. The scents of polished metal and silk-lined chests were intoxicating. Yet the deeper he waited, the more he was tempted by distractions, rows of rare vials, gemstones that glowed like captured sunsets. David paused to study each, weighing its beauty. Minutes slipped into hours. Unbeknownst to him, a slow click echoed through the vault as the king's appointed timekeeper trailed the seconds. Outside the vault, courtiers whispered anxiously. The allotted hour waned. In the chamber above, King Richard watched the hourglass in silence, Without announcement, the final grain of sand trickled its descent. At that moment, the heavy iron gate slammed shut with a thunderous crash. Within, David's euphoria turned to panic. He pounded on the bars, pleading for mercy. His treasures, once the promise of wealth, became prison bars of his own making. He realized, too late, that time, wasted, could not be reclaimed. In the king's council hall, whispers of David's folly spread like wildfire. King Richard, though pained by his friend's fate, spoke firmly. "Let this be a lesson to all. Riches offer no refuge for the unprepared spirit." David emerged, at last, gaunt and humbled, his sacks untouched, his regret etched into every line of his face. He bent the knee, offering apologies and vows to change. But the vault had spoken its verdict. Once the hour ends, gold cannot buy more of life's most precious gift, time itself. Mr. Cooper closed the tale, his voice soft. Locus's eyes shone with revelation. He had become David, losing hours to excuses, letting his own treasure time slip away. Mr. Cooper placed a hand on his shoulder and offered a simple counsel. "Time wasted is a debt unpaid. Embrace each moment as your greatest gift." With that, the boy felt a spark of resolve ignite in his chest. He vowed silently to honor the hours ahead. Back home, Locus found the tools of his former idleness transformed. The neglected garden called for planting, the books lay unopened on his desk, and the barn stalls awaited fresh straw. Surrendering excuses, he took to work. His fingers broke calluses as they turned soil, and his eyes brightened as letters formed on the page. Each task, once dreaded, now felt like repayment for stolen time. His family watched in astonishment as the slack-shouldered boy blossomed into a diligent youth. At school the next morning, Locus arrived early, sat at his desk with textbooks open, and greeted Mrs. Allen with confidence. When she assigned a reading, he read aloud flawlessly. When math problems arose, he solved them with careful attention. His classmates, once ahead of him, now sought his notes, amazed by his transformation. Each correct answer fueled his determination, a reminder that every minute invested yielded dividends of knowledge. Evenings were once wasted on idleness, yet now Locus structured them with purpose. He rose from the dinner table promptly, dedicating an hour to study, an hour to chores, and moments to help his younger sister with reading. His mother noticed. His cheerful diligence, his father saw new strength in his posture. Sleep came as a reward, not an escape. Locus felt pride replacing regret, the steady pulse of accomplishment in each heartbeat. Weeks turned into months. Locus no longer feared tests or deadlines, he welcomed them as milestones marking progress. When the harvest festival arrived, he joined neighbors in loading grain for market, his sturdy back and bright smile earning nods of respect. In village contests of reading and arithmetic, Locus triumphed, yet he remained humble, offering help to peers who once had mocked him. Time, once his enemy, had become his greatest ally. One spring morning, Locus returned to Mr. Cooper's cottage to express his gratitude. The sage smiled as the boy recounted his journey from sloth to zeal. Mr. Cooper replied softly, "You have learned that time, once spent, is gone forever. Guard it as your most precious treasure." Locus nodded, eyes shining with conviction. He pressed his hand to the old man's, promising to live by the lesson. Years later, when Locus had grown into a respected artisan, hand-skilled, mind-sharp, he recounted the tale of King Richard and David to apprentices at his workshop. Each time he told it, his voice carried the weight of experience. They listened, with rapt attention, notebooks open. He concluded, "Procrastination steals our tomorrows, but seize every moment and you forge your own destiny." In every household of the village, parents spoke of the boy once lost to idleness who became its brightest example of diligence. Children learned to greet the dawn with purpose, and elders reminded themselves that every breath is borrowed time. And in the heart of that transformation lay a single truth: time is precious, irreplaceable, and must be treasured. Moral of the story: time wasted is opportunity lost. Act now. Embrace each moment and shape your own future before the hourglass runs dry.